Okay, it's 7 p.m. I call the City of University Heights City Council meeting to order. It's April 13th, 2021, and this meeting is being conducted electronically by Zoom. Welcome, everyone. All the council are present, and our business is approval of minutes of the special meeting, March 23rd, 2021. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, they will be approved by unanimous consent. Okay, the first big order of business is a public hearing. And so I call the public hearing to order. This public hearing is to determine whether a dog owned and kept at 26 Process Place in University Heights is a fierce, dangerous, or vicious animal under Ordinance 55. And I'd like to say for any of the public that are here to speak about something else other than the dog issue, there is a time that you can speak about that during public comment or public input. But any comments will just be made at this public hearing about the dog issue. I want to clarify a couple of things. Chief Kelsey, I want to confirm that notice was given as required by law.
It was both posted at the community center and then it was hand delivered to Mr. Stratton. Thank
you. And I want to see, is Mr. Steve Stratton here tonight?
It's Dave Stratton.
I'm sorry, Dave Stratton.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Do you have other people with you that you want them to speak?
Yeah, they're the friends that live, my friends that live with me.
Okay, we'll get their names later.
Well, you already have Betty, so.
Okay, well, we want to be others. Okay, well, thank you, Dave. So now, with this public hearing, there are 3 questions for the council that they need to consider. One is the dog known as JJ, owned by Mr. Stratton, fierce, dangerous, or vicious. 2, did Mr. Stratton fail to restrain the dog on his premises? And 3, is it in the public interest that the dog be euthanized in a humane fashion? So I want to start with Chief Kelsey. And Chief, what can you tell the council about this?
I have distributed the police narratives that were written by Chris Akers, redacted narratives, as well as photographs of the victim's injuries. So you should have those received. I'm just going to run through the incident and summarize what happened, and then also summarize some conversations that I've had with Dave, with Dave's permission, and then Dave, when he has the opportunity to speak, can make any clarifications that he wants. Back on January 10th, Leslie, and I'm just going to refer to her by her first name, was walking her small dog Oliver through the neighborhood. At the same time, Dave, who has at least had at the time 5 dogs that lived at his residence. They were JJ, the dog in question, plus I believe 3 of JJ's siblings. I'm not sure if it's a father or a grandfather, but there were 5 dogs that Dave Stratton owned and kept at the home at that particular time. Dave, in subsequent conversations, said that he's well aware that because of the dog's history and when they came to live with him initially when they were born in their bed, I think he said 7 years ago at Lakeside, and they were raised at Lakeside, that the dogs were not socialized very well. They were teased by other residents. And because of that, and because of other incidents, Dave knows that he doesn't take any of the dogs outside unless they're on lead. Dave describes them in various times as protective, not socialized. He makes the distinction that they're not aggressive like a pit bull. They just aren't socialized, and they're very protective of both the family and of the property. So on this particular day, as Leslie was walking past with her little dog, Dave was opening the door to take 2 of the other dogs out on lead so that he could walk them and they could take care of their business. JJ and a second dog named Bear bolted past Dave and ran out when they saw Leslie and Oliver out in the street walking by. Leslie saw the dogs coming at her. in a very aggressive manner, barking. Particularly, JJ was leading the charge, and she very quickly tried to pick up Oliver, her little dog, in turn to protect Oliver. JJ did not back off. JJ bit her at least 3 times. He bit her on the ankle, a little higher up on the leg, and then jumped up and bit her on the buttock also. The attack stopped when Dave ran out very quickly. He was apologetic. He got a hold of JJ, managed to stop it, explained that this was an accident, and again explained to Leslie that the dogs weren't social. We don't let them out unless they're on lead. The police were called, and during the course of the investigation and conversation, police learned from both Dave and from the veterinarian that attends to JJ that there was a previous bite incident. And initially, it was reported that JJ had bitten a girl, I believe back in 2020, a young girl. Dave explained that girl came up on the deck of the house that they then lived in, and that JJ wasn't particularly fond of loud noises, but the girl had made some sort of noise. Dave explained that when they have guests over, whether they be that they prefer that they text or call in advance so they can kennel these dogs, because the family is aware that they aren't socialized and could potentially hurt somebody who came over or be aggressive towards it. In this instance, it bit another young girl. This had occurred at Modern Manor in 2020. And again, Dave emphasized the dogs are not trained, they're not socialized, they only go outside on a leash. As Officer Akers was talking to the veterinarian to confirm that the dogs were vaccinated, that JJ was vaccinated, he learned that the vaccinations were not current, that JJ was not current on his vaccinations. And the veterinarian shared with the officer that he was aware of a previous bite incident that occurred in 2019 involving this particular dog. I've since had conversations with Dave Stratton about this, and Dave now believes that neither of those 2 bite incidents were actually JJ. He believes that in one of those instances, the time that the girl was bit, that it was actually Molly, JJ's sister, who also lives with him, that did the biting. And in the 2019 incident, I believe it was, that the veterinarian referred to, while initially that was reported as JJ, Dave now believes that it was actually a different dog, the owner's dog, the victim's owner's dog that bit. But bottom line is there's previous incidents. Dave is aware of this behavior, and he's taken, as he described it, he's taken safety precautions to try to make sure that this doesn't occur, because he is aware that this is a possibility. And again, those precautions are asking people to let them know before they come over to the house, and only taking the dogs out when they are on lead. The dog, JJ, was quarantined, was taken down to the shelter, to the Iowa City Animal Shelter, where he spent a quarantine. Dave transported, if I'm recalling correctly, Dave transported the dog down to the shelter, where he turned him over to Officer Akers, and again warned Officer Akers that to beware, just to be cautious, because JJ is not socialized and isn't necessarily predictable in how he would act in that situation. Officer Akers, who I believe is present in case anybody has any questions directly for him, but Officer Akers found the dog to be actually fairly compliant in neutral territory. He was able to take the lead from Dave and to walk JJ into the shelter, the animal shelter, without incident, where he was turned over to the animal shelter staff. Chris Whitmore is the coordinator, the current coordinator for the animal shelter, and I've asked her to be here. And when I'm done presenting, I'm going to ask her to share with you both her professional opinion on what constitutes a vicious animal, a dangerous animal, and also what her observations and opinions were specific to JJ. JJ served his quarantine and was returned back to Dave. Dave was concerned about how this was going to be paid for, and I bring this up because, again, I have no doubt that Dave and the other adult household members, or the other members of the household, do love JJ. Dave made it clear that he did not have the money to pay for the quarantine, yet he realized that it was required, and Dave Dave came up with the money. When I spoke with him about it, he was able to, and he can clarify if you'd like, but he was able to get some contributions or someone to assist with that. Again, I fully appreciate that this is a family member. In the household, Dave and 4 other adults reside at the residence, as does one other child or one child. JJ and 4 other dogs lived there at the time of this incident. I believe there's also a cat and a parrot there, or a cat and a parakeet, but a bird. Dave has told me now that, again, and I apologize, I'm not sure if it's JJ's father or grandfather, but another dog that is related to JJ, the owner of that, because of a change in residency, let's just say, was not able to take care of that dog anymore. And Dave took that in initially temporarily, intending to find a home for it or somebody else to care for it. But when I spoke with Dave, and I spoke with him numbers of times, he says the family's already attached to that dog. And at this point, he doesn't believe that they can give that dog up either. So that now takes it to 6 dogs and 6 people in that particular residence. Yep, exactly. Again, just things that Dave felt was important. The dogs have not been socialized. The people who live in that house have no fear of those dogs. The dogs do protect the house. I have observed them at the window when I've talked to the family before, and they are very attentive. They bark. Dave equates that to the fact that they were teased initially in Lakeside, and Dave's response and the household's family's response was again to isolate the dogs and actually just to keep them present with the family and not in a condition or an environment where they might hurt somebody else. He stressed that JJ doesn't like other dogs, and that in this particular case, he believes JJ was going after Oliver, not necessarily Leslie. But when Leslie intervened or tried to protect Oliver, then that put her between JJ and this other small dog. Let's see, one other thing that, or a few other things that I think are relevant. We have also, the University Heights Police Department took a call from a staff member at Borlaug who wanted to make sure that he had some concern about a video that in the background, the dogs were present, and at this time it was 5 dogs, and they were present in that one kennel. And he had some concern, not for the well-being of anybody in the house, but just thought that it was not a good environment for the dogs to be in. We were aware of the situation already, and we could fill that particular staff member in on the details and explain that it was on council's agenda to address at some time in the relatively near future. So we have received that complaint. We've also received complaints from the neighborhood about feces, dog feces that hasn't been picked up, but whether that's attributed to some people that attributed, some of the complainants had attributed that to Dave and his dogs. But Dave and I talked, and he also talked about other dogs in the neighborhood that he feels are a nuisance because they are not as I guess restrained as JJ. Dave said that when JJ came back from the shelter, that just that time in the shelter, Dave feels that JJ's behavior has improved. That he has not tried to charge past and go outside since he returned. He waits for Dave to leash him and take him out. So Dave feels that even that little bit of socialization that he had for those few days, I think it was 7 days total that he was out the shelter, Dave thought that showed some improvement in JJ's behavior. But Dave is still concerned about not just JJ, but the other dogs, and continues to have precautions in place so that the dogs do not go outside by themselves. Dave characterizes this as an accident. The victim in this case, Leslie, is herself a dog owner and an animal lover, clearly. She has very mixed feelings on this. She doesn't want to be the one that's directly responsible for an animal potentially being euthanized. However, she also has very real concerns that this was an accident that happened at least once and could happen again. And next time, it could be worse than it was this time. Leslie suffered a fair amount of injuries. None of them were super serious, but it was still painful and it wasn't pleasant for her to go through. She did have to go through a series of shots, tetanus shots, and I'm not sure which other shots she said she had to have, but she did have to have those because of the dog bite, obviously. There was a concern then during quarantine about whether JJ might have rabies or some other dog carried disease. That turned out not to be the case. But Leslie's a young adult woman, and her concern is that if it was a child walking a dog, or if it was an adult walking a small dog and wasn't as quick to react, that the injuries could potentially be worse or even fatal. Again, she stresses that she's a dog lover, and frankly, I think she's being very mature about this, and she's aware of the University Heights ordinance and is aware that this is your decision to make and to balance those needs. So I think the only other thing that I haven't mentioned that Dave felt it was important for me to mention is that these animals he didn't characterize them as service dogs, but they're emotional support for some of the residents who live in this particular home. So that's pretty much the facts and circumstances about how this happened. Everybody agrees that this was an accident, but it did occur, and there is a concern that it will happen again. Dave is doing what he can to try to make sure that doesn't happen, but he was taking those same steps before this happened, and it still did happen. So Dave would like, I believe, to address council. I'm sure that he would, but first I want to turn it over to Chris. And again, going to the three issues that the mayor brought up is this dog vicious? Chris can speak to what a vicious or dangerous animal is far better than I can. Did the dog be allowed to be out on its own and bite someone? It most certainly did. Dave was issued a citation for allowing a dog to run loose. Dave entered a written plea of guilty for that citation and requested that the courts allow him to pay on a payment plan. I did, as just doing my due diligence for this, check. That plea was accepted, a plan was put into place, and March 29th, so what is the date today? About 2 weeks ago, that was sent to collections, as Dave has not made any payments on that particular agreement. So those are the situations those are the things that I know about it. If any of you have any questions for me about the report or about the information that I've shared with you, I'd be glad to answer those. Officer Chris Akers, of course, is, I believe, yes, he's available. If you have any questions directly for him, he was the one that wrote the report and made all the observations. And once we satisfy any questions you might have, I'm going to pass the baton to Chris Whitmore and let her share her expertise and opinion.
Troy, I have a question. I don't know if I missed it, but you mentioned that you sent the report in pictures. I don't think I saw those in my email.
I believe it's attached to the agenda as supporting documents.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Do you mind, please, Mike Haverkamp, could you put at least the pictures up for me, please? And I shared all this information with Dave also because I thought it was only fair that he knew the information that you were all receiving. But Mike, are you able to put up those pictures? Can you make them larger at all or no? I know you sent out one that included all of them. Are you doing anything, Mike? Mike must be muted.
We lost Mike.
I am screen sharing right now.
Okay, they're just little thumbnails right now. They show that they're in
I thought I opened the first one. Just a second. Nope. That's not what I want. Give me a second here, thanks.
While we're waiting, Dave has been apologetic, if you will, for this happening. He accepts responsibility for it. I believe that's probably why he pled guilty. He has made comments, and again, he can speak for himself, but that it bothers him that JJ will be punished for what he feels is his mistake. Again, while I can appreciate that, the concern goes beyond just this incident and what could occur in the future. These pictures show, are you able to maximize? Oh, you are. Okay, so these pictures show the top, and the top left show the same injury. That is just below the knee, and that is probably the most severe injury that Leslie received as far as a puncture wound. Where Mike is scrolling down now shows the bite to the ankle. And again, it's hard to show there, but the skin was grazed by the teeth. It's not as severe a puncture wound as where the dog jumped up and bit, and these are Beagle Shih Tzus mix, so where it jumped up and bit and actually tore flesh, probably from gravity. As we're scrolling down, the bottom right is, in my best estimation, is probably the claws from JJ, as he is actually jumping up on Leslie and trying to bite at Oliver and Leslie. And then the picture on the lower left there is actually a puncture mark kind of to the very upper thigh, lower buttock of Leslie, where, I mean, that is a puncture mark through the clothing that she was wearing. And again, the attack ceased not because JJ stopped, but because Dave hurriedly came out of the house and intervened and pulled JJ away. Any other questions, Sarah, or anybody else?
No, thanks for bringing those up. I'm sorry I missed those.
If there are no further questions for either me or Chris Akers, I'd like to thank Chris Whitmer for agreeing to take time out of her schedule and share her expertise with this. When I spoke with her, she was directly familiar with JJ. So I asked her, again, not just to share her expertise and help guide you on what might be determined to be a vicious or dangerous animal, but also what her assessment was of JJ in the time that it was at the shelter. So Chris, thank you very much for attending.
Sure. Not a problem. Thanks for having me. When JJ came in, he was taken back by Officer Akers. I believe Jen Reed met him, and they put him into our kennel on the stray side. On the stray side, if you've not been to our shelter, we have guillotine doors, so we don't physically have to handle them, have them to go outside. There's a door that we can open from the inside, so they can go outside. This is in the winter, so a lot of times they don't want to go out very often. The first couple of days that JJ was there, he wouldn't let anybody try to get him out on a leash. And we didn't want to push it, especially since we knew he was under a quarantine and he was there for observation for rabies. But the more the days went on, we wanted to work with him, trying to get him out, just to get him out on the grass as much as we can, because some dogs don't want to potty on concrete. And our staff is really well prepared for dealing with dogs like that. We have kind of a slip lead that we can put over their head and able to take them out safely. And then we have an enclosed courtyard, so they're not out in the general public, but they're out kind of where they can go to the bathroom. And we were able to do that, like, I think on the 5th day that JJ was here. He would never let us take the leash off of him. We have what we call a fish hook or a snake hook. And the only way to get that slip lead off of him was to use that. He gave us every indication that he was going to bite us. We call whale eye, where the whites of his eyes were showing us that he was alert and attentive. And if we wanted to mess with him, he was going to bite. So we knew that. So we just used our our snake hook to get the leash off. And so we were never able to physically just, pet the dog. He was always very leery. What we call, sometimes dogs get very fearful. And so that can be a fear aggression, but he wasn't showing us fear aggression. He was showing us aggression. He was saying, stay out of my space. I don't want you here. And if you tried to go into his space, he would charge you and you had to make sure that door was shut. At the end, when the quarantine was up, Jen Reed was able to get JJ on a leash and take it up to the owner. But that was the only time that we could actually take him out of that door without having to have a lot of cookies and that kind of thing to get him to come up. He was not a safe dog for us to have. If this dog would come into the shelter as a stray dog, he would not go up for adoption. He was too aggressive. And unfortunately, those kind of dogs do happen. In our professional opinion, those dogs are too dangerous for the general public to have. Not that dog trainers couldn't adopt JJ, or one of the shelter employees couldn't adopt JJ and work with him and get him to be a what they call a shelter safe dog, but he would not be a general adoption dog. In our what I saw in those bites is a dog that was being aggressive. He wasn't being fearful. He might have been trying to go after that little dog, but that repeated bite attack, those are dogs that we find are the most dangerous. Some dogs will go up and bite you once and then run away from you. And they can be fearful and aggressive, but he was doing it more than once. He was trying to, and I think if that owner, like Troy said, if that owner hadn't came, I don't know when it would have stopped. I think it would have probably stopped when she was able to either take the dog someplace else, or I don't know. And it does make me worried if there would have been a child involved walking a dog, or an elderly person walking a dog. Those are the people that I worry about. Those are the people that, as a shelter, we have to worry about those kind of people walking a dog. If a dog is being dog aggressive, that's no different than being people aggressive in our opinion, because those dogs are usually walking with other people, and what we call the bite redirect. Most people, if you do dog bites, they get by the redirect. They're trying to get in between their dog and another dog. So in our opinion, JJ would not be a safe dog to have in the community. So anybody have any questions for me?
Hi, Chris.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Nick.
Well, I was just going to ask, you had mentioned that, someone who was basically a professional might take a dog like this in. What are the odds that there would be that ability to find a professional who wanted to take a dog like this in?
We've struggled with that a lot. We have like breed rescues that if we think is a questionable dog, I know many years ago, we would put questionable dogs up to rescues to say, especially if it's a purebred Shih Tzu, and say, hey, we have a dog that doesn't pass our criteria. Would you guys be interested in that? And we used to do that because they are fanatics about their breed, and they think that they can work with that dog to make it safe enough for them to deal with. We found that now that is a really bad idea, because not only is you're passing that situation on to somebody else, you're taking that liability and maybe sending it to another state or another city. And you really need to take that responsibility and have that animal euthanized. And finding that trainer to want that dog, there's too many of them. There's too many dogs out there that would need that trainer. And there's just not enough trainers that want dogs that, believe it or not, they want nice dogs too. And so not only could like Liz Ford, who does fantastic work with aggressive dogs that we deal with, and she's the ex-director here, she could adopt that dog and live with it, but she doesn't want to have that liability. She doesn't want to have that risk of that dog hurting someone else. So yeah, could she make it work? Absolutely she could, but would she take on that responsibility? She would not. And it's just not a thing that most dog trainers or shelter employees want, those kind of dogs just because of the liability of that. And nobody wants anybody to get injured. We don't want dogs to get injured. We don't want people to get injured. So that's when we feel, yeah, it's sad that an animal is going to be euthanized, but we feel that's for the greater good that that dog would be euthanized.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Thanks.
I mean, so it sounds like your recommendation to us is that, we direct this dog to be euthanized. Am I taking that correctly?
With the history of what I've seen with that dog, if this was a hearing that we were having at our city, we would recommend this dog to be euthanized. Yes.
I'm gonna call down that tomorrow. I don't care.
Troy, do you have other people or documents you'd like to present?
I do not, unless you have any questions for Officer Akers.
Well, we'll keep getting to more questions as we go on. And Chris, it's very nice. Let's see. Chris is available for questions too. And Chris Whitmore, I got your name right, correct? I've never met you before. It's nice to meet you. Can you stay on later to the meeting too for
Sure.
more questions?
You bet. Yep, I
Thank
can.
you. Thank you. All the documents that Chief Kelsey has made reference to will be made part of the council's record and kept with the minutes. Now I'd like to ask Mr. Dave Stratton if there's anything you'd like the council to consider. Would you like to speak now?
Well, the only thing I got to say is, because this may be directed towards Chris. We were calling down there every day and they were saying JJ was fine. And you turn around and say what you said. I don't believe that. I mean, when he came back, he was better than when he left.
That's good.
I don't understand. My point is, I don't understand. I don't want to get rid of him. I don't want him put down. I'm trying to work with everybody trying to figure this out. But there's like Troy said, it was kind of, we know he's like that. We put steps into place to have that be done. And we've been doing that. And this, like Troy says, and I'm going to tell it again, that this was just an accident. This was my fault. Don't punish the dog. Punish me. My opinion is that we don't have anybody to take him to right at this point. Basically, I'm saying that I don't know what's going to happen because we don't want to put him down. We don't have anybody to take him to. I'm trying to talk to my landlord to put a fence up or something and or buy one of those kennels, but I don't think it's right. I don't see him acting like that, but he, for God's sakes, that my friend that's sitting next to me, she died about 2 years ago on our kitchen floor, and the dogs all went sat beside her and then went to get us. So I really don't think I see your point of view, but on the other hand, I don't either. So, I'm kind of at a loss what to do.
I guess my concern is I'm worried about another accident happen. An accident, that's why they're called accidents and not on purposes. I'm worried about, if this happened again and it like wounded a child's eye. Well, that's a permanent injury. And somebody who's deaf, maybe walking by, can't hear a dog barking at him. I'm just worried about, the what ifs and the next times.
So are we.
Go play.
But what can we do besides putting down? Is there any? That's what I'm trying to figure out. We've been trying to figure it out, but it's kind of one of those things where, I'm kind of set in what I want to do, and we're trying to do, and I'm going to do that. But like now, he doesn't even want to go outside unless he's on a leash. He doesn't even go near the door. He waits for me. And we do put him in the kennel when we're gone or when somebody comes over. They have to phone us, like we said, they have to phone us and text us before they come over. I mean, you know, it's kind of one of those things. Basically, they're house dogs because we know how they act. I mean, I just don't like the idea of, I know, trying to find someplace for him. Basically, I don't, you know, I don't know.
Well, these situations are tragic and they're unfortunate. And believe me, I'm a huge animal lover. I've had animals my whole life and still do. But we all have an obligation as responsible pet owners to be good stewards of not only our pets, but to our neighbors as well.
Right.
The responsibility lies within the owner's obligation to protect people from bad behavior and
Right.
dangerous behavior. And I've always felt the owner has already chosen the consequences by not doing the work of being a responsible pet owner. So I believe the owner has already decided the outcome of the situation, not me.
Yeah.
Dave, I
Yeah.
want you to be able to say anything you want to say, but would you like some of your people that you have with you speak now?
I mean, Betty can speak on behalf of her son of what the dogs are like around her son.
Okay.
I'll let her go. I'll let her go ahead.
And Betty, your name is here. It's Heslop.
Heslop.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Betty. And how are you related, or how do you know Dave?
I met him back when he had just gotten out of jail.
Yeah, I was gone. To explain the situation, we've been
Well,
friends
I
for
know, but I mean, a
while.
couple years ago.
No, longer than that. It's been like
That's been about 5-10 years now.
5, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So Betty, go ahead and speak now. Thank you.
I've been around these dogs since before they were even born. And before my son was born. My son has been around these dogs since they were born and since he was born. He can scream at the top of his lungs at us and they won't move a muscle. But the minute we yell at one of us, they come running to us, trying to help us. And if they fear, if they feel like my son is in danger, they will try to help him or try to protect him.
And tell him you feel safe.
And these guys I know they wouldn't hurt me on purpose. Dogs are basically like us. They have accidents. They have incidences, like we do.
Dave, do you have other people that would like to speak?
I just don't understand. I just want to know why we were like,
Well, my friend over here, because we called, this might be for Chris too, but we had called the animal shelter every day because we knew how JJ was when he went down for his quarantine. We had called them every day, and everybody down there said he was doing fine. They had no problem with him at all. And then she's coming on and saying this, and we think we're being lied to, but I don't know,
I can tell you, when you call and say he's doing fine, he was doing fine. If they're eating, they're pottying outside, that's fine. But able to get him out on a safe manner probably wasn't what we were doing at that time. Like I said, it took him like 3 or 4 days before we were able to take him out.
Right, I understand that.
but we called every day.
But I mean, Chris, I'm not understanding because, like, he's not, I mean, yeah, he's like that around some people, but the way you're explaining it, that doesn't sound like our dog at all. I'm just like really frustrated because you're saying he has to be put down and we're telling you no. I mean, what? He's been with us for 7 years, and just because he wasn't socialized, because where he lives, and he's like this, and you know, so what? You want to put him down because,
He's aggressive.
well, but
We never saw any.
but that's the thing. But I don't see that. I don't see. I mean, I don't see that. I mean, it's.
You saw the
kind of-
bites, you saw the incident, correct?
Yeah, I took him off of her,
And
but
that
I
doesn't
didn't.
alarm
I
you?
didn't see. I mean, I didn't see. I saw her the bites when I took him off of her, but I really wasn't. I was just trying to get him off. Now, you know, it's kind of. I mean, yeah, but no. You know what I mean? I'm trying to weigh the facts because I don't see that, but I don't understand that because I don't.
Other people put leashes on and made it, no.
Okay, but putting leashes on him is a different thing. He wasn't, you know, they're never used to those leashes that you guys have down there. Some of them take to it, some of them don't. When I took him in and when your officer took him, right? Because I let him go with your officer because Chris was there. I didn't see anything. He walked right in there. With
Most
the
of them
officer.
do.
And the dog, they were taking a German Shepherd by at the time. And usually he goes ballistic when a big dog goes by. He didn't even do that. So I thought, okay, everything was going to be okay. And he went with the officer down the hall. I watched him. He went with the officer down the hall. Said, JJ, come on. He went with him.
Mhm.
I'm like, I mean, you know, it's kind of,
It's just not making sense.
it's not making sense to me because he went with the officer and now you're telling us this. And by the way, I think I lost you.
No, she's still there. She's right there.
Oh, okay. You're
It
still
just
there?
switched
You're still there,
I'm
Chris?
still here. Yep.
Okay, yeah, I don't, I mean.
I can just tell you, let me explain it this way. We had a lot of dogs that'll come in the front door,
Right,
usually by their owner, and then we can take them back to the dog area.
right,
Though most of the time they'll walk with us just fine.
right.
Once you shut them in that kennel door, all bets are off. They change, a lot of times they can change their behavior towards us. Some dogs are perfectly fine with it. Some of them don't want to be in there at all. A lot of times, like JJ, probably wanted to go back home. He realized
Yeah.
that he wasn't going to leave again. And so
See,
then
I
he was getting
understand,
upset.
you know, I understand that he was, and you know, we told him that he had anxiety, you know, I mean, but I wouldn't, see, we weren't there, but. it
No,
was-
dogs act completely different once they're in a kennel environment.
And now when he gets, like I was telling everybody, now he sits at the door. He does not want to go out.
Go ahead. Go push it.
I
Go
mean,
back.
he waits for me to take him out or waits for somebody else to take him out. I usually take him out with his brother. But, you know, and he doesn't really even bark anymore. He sits and watches people now. So I'm not getting it, but you know.
Mr.
The,
Stratton, would you
could I-
like anybody else to speak? Do you have other people you'd like?
My friend, she can't. She's too upset when she heard that we
Okay.
have to put the dog down. She's too upset. I'm a little upset too, but it's kind of one of those. It's kind of one of those things. I'm, you know, my opinion on it is no. I'm not going to put the dog down. But the problem is we don't have anybody to take him to, and we don't want to move. Because I mean, even though our lease ends in July, you know, my thing was that Troy asked me to see if you guys could give me more time because I'm working on a thing to put a fence up or, you know, stuff like that, get him a dog run.
We've been wanting to get him.
And we've been wanting to get one of those anyhow. We just haven't had the money to get it. So my thing is that if you could give me a little more time, and because my landlord owns a construction company, and I called him today to ask him if we could put a fence around the yard. And I'm thinking, you know, thinking of a fence being safer, you know, at least he's not going to get out of the fence. If it's put up right, he's not gonna get out of the fence to get anybody. But right now I haven't heard back from him, and I'm still trying to see if I can order like one of those dog run kennels, like a 10 by 10 or whatever they're, for
One of the
big,
bigger ones.
for ones with the door on it and with the, that you set in the ground, and, you put stakes in it so that it doesn't go anywhere and stuff like that. I'm trying to put things into place so that we can keep him. Oh, by the way, the other two dogs that we have, their daddy and their the boys' son, she can take her dogs back. So we're only going to have 4 after this weekend.
Good. Dave, just one real quick clarification. I don't think that really anybody's in disagreement. I mean, when you talk to me, your dogs certainly are very well behaved, and as Betty said, there's nobody in the house is fearful of JJ or any of the other dogs.
Right.
Yet you're very aware that JJ has unpredictable behavior or suffers
Right.
from anxiety, or so you're aware of that behavior out in the community. So that's what council's trying to balance, is you're doing what you can to try to maintain that balance
Right.
to keep your
It just-
neighbors and neighborhood safe.
Sorry, Troy, it just come off wrong the way Chris said that, and I'm sorry, Chris, if I come off in a bad way, but it just kind of turned the wrong. I know you guys are trying to help me, and I'm trying to help you guys, but it just come off in the wrong way, the way she said that. And I know and I understand how she was trying to put it. She was trying to be as nice as possible. I guess I'm frustrated too, trying to figure out what we can and what we can't do.
I don't think you learned it.
I don't know. My personal opinion is I don't think he's going to hurt anybody again. He does right now. They're not going out unless we go out, because we have to go out, because we smoke cigarettes. We have to go outside. Our landlord won't let us smoke in the house. So we take the dogs out with us when we go out. So, and they're not out. They're not unattended anytime they're out there either. I do tie them out. They do have a thing where I tie them out, but when we tie them out, they're on leashes and they're not unattended.
Steve, could I ask you a
I would never
question?
leave them unattended.
Steve Ballard, what is required to close this public hearing?
Well, you asking me?
No,
Oh.
Steve.
Steve?
Sorry. So there's really not a procedure. The mayor is presiding. I've encouraged the mayor to make sure that Mr. Stratton has every opportunity to share information and present any people or documents that he might have relevant to what's before the council. So I guess that's all I can say, Nick, is really that I've just encouraged Louise to try to make the hearing as open as possible for Mr. Stratton, for the council, and then we haven't turned to the public yet, but for the public to express themselves.
Thank you.
Yes, I agree. I want Mr. Stratton to be able to say absolutely everything he wants to say. I think that's very important. And, but he still can speak later. Right now, how about I have council, if they want to ask questions to the chief, to the officer, to Chris from ICAC, or Mr. Stratton, or anybody. Are there some questions you'd like to ask? And then I'll let Mr. Stratton speak again if he'd like.
I guess I have a question for Mr. Stratton.
Yes,
I mean, this is hard for all of us. Don't get me wrong. This
Right.
is such a hard thing to think about, but as Troy said, we're balancing like your love for your dog, and we got to think about the safety of the people in our town, and how this could go if it happened again. And so I guess, I mean, how can you assure us that this doesn't happen again? I mean, even a fence, you know, he ran out the front door without, you know, without you letting him out. So it's like, how, I guess what I'm not seeing is any assurance that this won't happen again. And that's-
Is there anything like, we'll sign anything saying that it's not gonna happen again, and then, you know, draw it up through the council or through the mayor or through the police or attorney or something? Because,
Give us probation.
I don't know of anything, I don't know if anything else, you know, just to keep him, we're willing to do about anything, except for putting him down or getting rid of him. Okay, my friend Robert wants to say something.
Okay, could somebody move so he could speak, and could you give us your name?
Oh, you can see him there. He's
Give us
standing
your
up.
name.
Robert Pulo,
Can you spell your last name?
Pudil.
You're fading, Mayor.
Okay, and how do you know Mr. Stratton?
I've known him for, oh my gosh,
You've known me for 20 years.
yeah, something like that.
Do you live at this residence?
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
Okay, thank you.
Rhonda and Ron, him and my friend Rhonda are husband and wife.
Oh, okay, thank you, Robert. Go ahead and speak.
What was I gonna?
Oh my God.
This whole thing's got me topsy-turvy.
He was
What I was gonna say is every time somebody comes over, like a friend or something, we order them to send us a text message or something like that to let us know that they're coming over, because every time they do that, then we make sure they're in their cage before we even open up the door.
Oh,
And stuff like that.
Another thing, Mayor, the door is always locked. Both doors are always locked. So we're putting that safety precaution in. We've done that. We're a private family. We don't like a lot of people. His wife has anxiety problems. She doesn't like a lot of people over. So basically, between living in Lakeside and moving here, and we just moved to University Heights last August, so we really didn't know. We'd never lived here before, so we really didn't know the bylaws or any of the ordinances here. I looked some of them up on your website to find out what they were. I read through them, but we didn't know anything. We just saw this house. We're renting this house. We thought it was a nice neighborhood. And I'm very sorry that this happened in your city. Like I say, punish me, don't punish the dog. But it is in part, it is my responsibility, and I take full responsibility.
But Dave, this is Troy.
Hey, Troy.
You had gone through a whole list of what you called safety precautions, and you just
Mhm.
went through some of them now that you take.
Mhm.
But the reason you're taking those safety precautions is, and maybe it's not just JJ, maybe it's JJ Bear or all the dogs. I don't know, but you
It's
have
for
a
all.
concern.
It's for all the dogs.
Right.
We don't
So
want
you have,
we don't want anything to happen.
right, and you're concerned
And
that it
those
might
were
because they're
those were in
socialized.
place even when we were lived over at Lakeside too.
Yeah.
They've been in
Right.
place since they started to walk.
Right.
And that's the point I want to make. Those safety precautions have been in effect, and since they started walking, since they started going outside to go to the bathroom when they were young dogs, really young dogs, they started at an early age.
And despite those precautions, there's been at least 3 bites, although they weren't JJ that did all of them.
Molly did one.
Right.
Killian did the one that we were talking about on December 19th of 2019. Ron had called the vet because she thought it was JJ. Later on, we found out it was our friend's dog, her Siberian Husky that had bit her. Her own dog had bit her.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Dave.
I made the mistaken call.
She made the mistaken call, but it was probably a good thing she did call, because But then later on, we found out, oh, they let the cat out of the bag. Oh, by that way, that was Killian that bit me. So, but they didn't tell Rhonda that Killian had bit her. They blamed it on Jay.
Okay, does council have any more questions they want to ask anyone? And okay, so now I'm going to ask the public in attendance at this Zoom meeting, would anyone from the public like to speak now about this dog situation? Mike, you let me know if somebody raises their hand or notice that they want to speak.
Everyone has the ability to unmute themselves if they'd like to, so.
Okay, thank you. So I'm not hearing from anybody, correct?
Louise, I want to make a comment.
Yes,
Oh.
Louise.
This is Lisa Haverkamp.
Oh, okay, thank you, Lisa. What's your address, please?
315 Gulfview.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. Go ahead.
And my concern, I have a dog. I love my dog, and know that we need to be train our animals to be able to be socialized if we're going to be in a neighborhood. My concern is, as I've been home this year, the number of people in our neighborhood who are walking their dogs, with their children. I don't want to see another individual hurt. There are too many. We've got a lot of little kids in our neighborhood in the past 5 years. It would be very easy for one of them to be walking with their dog, with mom, dad, brother, sister, and have this happen. I hope you take this into very strong consideration. So thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to the council about the dog issue?
Mayor, this is
Dave
again.
Stratton, is that
Yeah,
you?
it's me again. Hey,
Okay.
another thing I wanted to add now is before, even after when we let the dogs out now, I always look out the window before I even open the door to make sure there's no one out there. Not because of the incident, but because I know how the dogs are. So I make sure there's no one around, basically, when I take the dogs to go to the bathroom, because I don't want the incident to happen again. And it was, the accident that just happened.
Mr. Stratton, I want to make sure you had a chance to tell everything you wanted to the council. Have you told them everything you want them to know?
That is basically, sorry. Down the street. They bark with the wind. Sorry about that, guys. Basically, I want to sum it up as that we're being awfully careful about when we look before we let them out. Make sure there's nobody out there. If there is somebody out there, make sure that they're either walking down the street or they've gone before I even take the dogs out to go to the bathroom. If the dogs are out there, we are always out there with them. They're not let off of their leashes. They're kept on their leashes. They walk, and I usually walk them around the back of the house, so in case somebody walks by, they don't see them. It's kind of those precautions that we don't want, because we don't, some their barks might scare some people, so we're trying to keep them as quiet as possible in the situation that we have. And I just want you guys to know that basically we're trying to do everything we can so that we don't lose Jay, that we don't have to give him away, or we don't have to move. For God's sakes, we don't have the money to move.
Dave, I got a quick question. I appreciate you doing everything you can to minimize the risk. I mean that's good. But I see you have a small son there walking around behind you. What happens if he opens the door and you're unaware of it, and the dog goes bolting outside? Again, it's an accident. He didn't mean to. You didn't know it was going to happen. What?
let me tell you something. He's pretty good
Love you
about
too.
that. He'll shut the door behind us. He'll shut the door. If we go outside, he'll shut the door. He'll make sure, and he makes sure that the dogs, even if the kennel door isn't open, he opens the kennel door and makes sure that they go in there, because all you have to do is say, go in your house. Anyone can tell them that, and they'll go in their house. They're well trained at that. He's very careful. He does. His mom and dad and all of us has told him never not to answer the door or don't go near the door.
And he does.
And he does it.
Well, my concern is, I don't know how heavy this dog is, but I think
He's 40, about 40 pounds.
my concern is
Jay's 35.
my concern is he bolt him right out of the way, you know, to go shooting out that door, where a grown-up, you know, you can put your leg in front of him and stop him, or you got the physical power to shut the door on their face. I don't know if an 8-year-old boy could do that.
He's only 6.
Or 6.
But he has a lot of control over those dogs. They listen to him.
They listen to him better than they listen to us.
Which is kind of
weird. You know, I mean, he can tell them to go lay down. They'll go lay down. Tell them to stop barking. They'll stop barking. Don't go near the door. They'll sit there and wait for him to come back from the door.
Right. But again, having owned a lot of dogs in my life,
I see your concern.
Yeah, I know what dogs do, especially if you see a squirrel, they get tunnel vision and they'll bolt right through your legs and knock you down.
That's really strange, because I've seen a difference in all of them since we moved over here. They're like they'll sit at the window and bark at it, but they won't go near the door, which is weird.
They'll look out the window at it.
They'll look out the window. We've got birds in the house.
One of them
and they don't even bother. They don't even. Okay, they'll bark. Okay, grant you this: if there's a bunny in the yard, they'll bark.
They are beagles.
But they are part beagles, so you know.
Okay.
Yeah, the beagle takes over sometimes.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, I see your concern about that, Doug. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
I see your concern about that, but you know, like I said before, we put everything, since they were puppies, we put everything into place. This was just an accident. It's my fault.
Mm-hmm.
I want to guarantee you that it's not going to happen again, and I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen again.
And
because basically when we leave the house, we put them in the kennel all the time. We've never let them out. Since we moved into this house, I've never let them out. When we leave, we put them in the kennel. Now they're not in there at night.
Okay,
but,
I understand you're renting the house. The property owner, I guess I got to come out and just flat out ask you, why would the property owner put a dog kennel up for you? I mean, just as a property owner, why would he invest in a cage?
No. I called him to get the okay.
Oh, okay.
He's a real nice landlord, but I wanted to get his opinion. I wanted to get his opinion on it. I wanted to get his opinion on putting a fence around the yard, because I don't know how to do that. And he's a construction owner. He might know how to do that.
So you're looking for his approval.
I have to look. That's why I called him today. That's why I'm telling the council, give us at least until June to figure that out, because I don't know when he's going to get back to me. He's out on construction. Sometimes he's at the place where they're at. He's real good about getting back to my calls, though. I mean, I'll hear from him probably in the next day or two. But it's just that it's like, if we're going to have to do something, I would rather do something to improve the situation. Like, instead of getting rid of him or having him put down, like put up a fence or put a dog run up for him, for all of them. Because
I'm looking for, I guess, a solid plan. I think we're all kind of waiting to hear what you're going to do. What's step 1? What's step 2? What's step 3? What's the timelines? What can we expect and when? I think that would probably give us a little bit more guidance on how to handle this moving forward.
Okay.
But maybe coulda, woulda. I'm not sure if that'll work.
the steps have been, the steps that what I was telling you have been put into place. We are doing them. And I can't tell you step one, step two. It's like they're all combined together.
But you no longer go out the door with the other dogs, like putting the other.
Did you
dogs
hear
in
it, Doug?
there.
Can you hear it,
I
Doug?
can't hear, I
Okay,
hear in the
hold on.
background.
Let me turn it around so you can hear her. You can see her.
We do not, if we go out the door
Mhm.
and we are taking a dog out to go to the bathroom, then the other dogs go in the kennel.
So
Or
if they can't
we
get
have
out.
somebody sitting by the door, so they don't get out.
So I mean,
That is because after Jay did that, that is what we've been doing, so that nothing happens again.
well, we've been doing it before that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were doing
Yeah,
it
we've been
before,
doing this
but-
all along. See, that's why I told you I can't say there's a step one, step two. We're like, it's bundled all together, what we've been doing since they were puppies up until now, or continuing now, but we're putting other things like into place, like trying to get the yard fence in with the approval of the landlord, trying to get a kennel for them to run in, so they don't get out. Or they don't get, if they're outside, they don't get out, they don't get away from us, is what I'm saying. And they won't, because they're not ever, when they're outside, they're always on a leash. They're not ever
If you
off of a
tell them
leash.
to stop, they do.
Yeah, they listen to me more than they listen to everybody else.
Well, my other concern is leashes break. I mean, that's just the fact. I mean, leashes do break, and again, it would be an accident. I mean, that's just, leashes
Yeah,
do break.
you have a point, but I mean, it's kind of like I've been telling all of you that this is what we have in place, and now we're improving on.
Mr. Stratton, could you identify who was just speaking there?
That was Rhonda. That was Robert's wife.
Okay, Rhonda, and she lives in the household?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
she's
all
my wife.
live together.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Would you like to say anything else in closing?
Just to say that we're
Let
going.
us have him on probation.
Yeah. She wanted
If you
like,
don't have anything happen in the next
just
month,
just like she's saying, just check up on, just have someone check up on us for a month and see what's going on. I know that may not be feasible, but check on and see, okay, hey, how is he doing? How are we doing? Stuff like that. I mean, we're trying to do anything that we can to prevent this from happening and keeping him and not putting him down. I don't, as a dog owner, yeah, I'm responsible for the dog, and this happened. Yes, it's my responsibility. But on the other hand, it's kind of one of those things where you've had a dog for 13 years, all of a sudden he bites. You're going to, bites for no reason, and he's never done anything before in his life. Are you going to have that dog put down? That's my, I'm trying, I know you're not saying that. But that's my feeling. And the matter is that, are we going to get anywhere with this, or are we going to just keep going around circles? And I don't want to keep going around circles. I want to do something about it. And I'm doing something about it. And I want you guys to understand that it's going to, with the house that we're renting and what I want to do, it's going to take time. I mean, we can't, and it's going to take money. Unless the landlord will do it for us for free, will do it for us, which he might be able to do. I don't know. I mean, we might be able to pay him for, doing it for us. But I gotta have him get in contact with me. That's why I guys want you guys to wait a little bit on your decision on what you're gonna do, because it won't be within the next week, I can tell you that.
Not right away.
Okay. Did everyone get to speak? The
You're
public,
fading out again, Mayor.
I'm fading out?
Yeah, you're going blurry and then coming back.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Did everyone get to speak at your house that wanted to
Does
speak
anybody
now?
else
I
want?
just want to say one more.
Okay. Robert wants to say something else, Mayor.
Okay,
Me and Dave and Rhonda would be willing to sign something if that's what you need or something. I'd even be willing to let you guys write it up and we could sign it. I mean, that's just my thought. I mean, because like I said, like they said, you know, would be willing to do anything to keep him alive and stuff.
I mean, you guys haven't made a decision yet. That's what we're trying. We're not trying to force you to do anything, but we're trying to come up with ideas. You and both of us. You are and they're technically my friend's kids because my friend can't have kids, and they help her a lot. I'm understanding where you guys are coming from, but also understand that this is where we're coming from, and you know, we kind of have to meet in the middle. We kind of have to solve this problem together, is what I think.
Now, I don't know who to ask this question to.
Okay.
Once a dog has been labeled, you know, an attack dog, what's it do to the property owner, or well, the tenant, I guess? Does he have to have some kind of household insurance or some kind, liability insurance?
I don't know. I mean, there's renter's insurance, but I don't know. I haven't. You know what? I might look into that.
I've heard of
and
that
see
before in other cities.
because that might be a thing that might cover, you know. But I don't know. I don't know, Doug. I mean,
I have heard of it before from pit bulls and parolees. And she does, like, as the name suggests, she does deal with a lot of pit bulls. And
so,
she knows it perfectly well how the breed can be.
So see, I don't know, Doug, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if the renter's insurance would cover that or not. I'll have to look into that for you guys.
Well, I just know if I had a bear in my backyard in a cage,
right,
and my insurance company found out about it, they go ballistic and insane.
Well, see, we don't have renter's insurance. That's why I was asking you if you knew anything about it, because you know, I don't know much about like renter's insurance. I know about homeowners insurance, but our landlord carries that.
Yeah, maybe our city attorney could find some information online you could look at.
Do you know anything about insurance like that, Mayor?
No, I don't. I think if everything's been said, we ought to keep moving on. Is that okay with you, Mr. Stratton?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Mayor.
Yes.
This is Troy. Leslie Sycophus, it's on the screen there. She joined late. She is the young lady who was bitten in this incident, and I would at least like to, I'm not sure she was there when I started, I'd at least like to give her the opportunity to address council if she would like.
Okay, so Leslie is attending the meeting tonight, and would she like to speak? I think you have, as our clerk said, you can unmute yourself if you desire.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't sure if that was my cue to speak or not.
Hi, Leslie.
Hi, I'm Leslie. I'm the victim in this. I live 36 Prospect Place. I live in the last house on the right, and you know, I wasn't sure if you guys had any, you know, questions for me. I'm willing to speak. I originally was planning on not speaking tonight, you know, but I chose to, so maybe you guys could hear it from, you know, my perspective. You know, Dave and, you know, and his friends there, they've been very remorseful over the situation that happened. And yes, it is an unfortunate accident. But I've also had, you know, a conversation with Dave that I am concerned. And I hate, you know, saying this because I too am an animal lover. And just the thought of it absolutely breaks my heart. But I am concerned too, and I even voiced this today, that I'm concerned about, you know, what if it happened again? the day that it happened, there were two children, playing outside. And, I'm thinking, what if it had been them? I would much rather it had been me than the little kids or an elderly person, because, I'm resilient. I can heal pretty quickly. It's fine. But, I am concerned about, like, what if it happened again? What if like, what if it were like an animal? What if it was someone's dog? That unfortunately, got injured in the process. So yeah, I am concerned about, the dog and the safety and the liability it poses. So that's really all I have to say. The pictures I actually had, I think there's one picture that may have been left out. I actually had 2 deep puncture wounds, and then a third one that didn't break the skin. There was only 2 shown. I had a puncture wound on the back of my right calf as well. I did, fortunately, my boyfriend here, he's a physician, and so he had all the tools here to clean it up. And I did go to urgent care, and I did have to get a tetanus shot, and I also had to, I was also prescribed antibiotics as well. Unfortunately, the puncture wound that, the worst one, the one that's below my knee, the physician assistant that I saw didn't feel comfortable closing it up because it posed a high risk of infection. So I had to bandage it up, and I had to clean the wound out a couple of times throughout the day, and I had to make sure that it was clean and it didn't get infected. So that was a lot to deal with. But it healed. Unfortunately, I do have two scars from it, but it's nothing. I didn't have no infections, nothing, no adverse reactions, to the medication or the tetanus shot, and so I'm healed, and I'm just fine. But I'm thinking, like, what if it happened to an elderly person or a kid? And that's something that I do take seriously, because there are, a lot of elderly people and kids who are in the neighborhood as well. So.
Lastly, it's nice to meet you. Thank you for speaking tonight. I think that's helpful to the council. Does the council have any other questions for Leslie?
Nope.
Thank you very much.
Sorry that
Oh,
happened.
Doug does? Okay.
No, just sorry that happened.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, they were very remorseful. I just want to, make it clear that, Dave and, his roommates, they apologized immediately. And I absolutely don't blame them for this. It was a complete accident. Like I said, I had my dog out walking, and the dog got out, and I think he saw my dog, and I immediately, just instinct, I picked up my dog. My dog's small, and I'm able to hold him, and so he just ran around the corner, and I think that he was trying to get to my dog, and I just happened to get the brunt end of it.
Mm-hmm.
But he apologized. He did, and we talked about it. So.
Is anybody else like to speak to the council at all, or have any questions for any of the people? Because if not, and Mr. Stratton, you said everything you want to say. I think you said it multiple times.
I think I said more than multiple times that I'm really sorry about this happened, and my responsibility, it's not. And I did go take JJ away from Leslie when it happened. I come and got him when I heard her scream. So, that was, I think that was a big part on mine, because I didn't know that he had slipped out. I didn't even see him go out, and I heard her screaming. I'm like running down there. I had the 2 girls with me when they were going to the bathroom, and he and his brother run out. His brother didn't do anything because his brother grew up with 6 kids. So, he just sat there. When I come down the corner, he was sitting there. I actually had to pull JJ off of her because he was not letting up. But you know, that was just I you know, I just thankful that she wasn't hurt any worse than what she was. Sorry that she was hurt that bad. Sorry you were hurt that bad, Leslie. I just, you know, that was just a freak thing that happened, and I understand that where you guys are coming from, and I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from on this point of view. And Leslie, I hope you understand that you joined late, that you understand. Did you hear some of my conversation?
Yeah, I was here for the conversation.
Where I was telling about I was just re-going over what was going on because you joined late. I'd already told them what had happened and you know stuff like that. But I'm glad you're not hurt any worse than what you were. And I'm still sorry about what he had. But I did come out and get him when I heard him. You know, I did do that, and I did ask you right after it happened, "Are you okay?" You told me you were okay. So, you know,
I was bit 3 times by my own dog, so I know exactly how she feels. But I couldn't even destroy our own dog. My sister wouldn't even let us destroy it.
So I think if you know, it's kind of one of those things, Mayor, that I'm just going to say, I think we've discussed this enough. Let's try to make a mutual ground on what we can do, not for one, not for the other, but you know, try to work things together so that we can, you know, do what we can do. You know, if you guys have any more advice besides putting him down, let me know, and I'll get with my landlord and figure out what we're going to do what we're going to do about the fence, or we'll do what we've been doing from now on, from day one.
Okay.
I can't say any more. I mean, you guys, you know, we just need to come to an agreement on this, on what we're going to do.
Thank you, Mr. Stratton.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And with that, I'm going to close the public hearing.
Okay.
And now we're going to go to the city attorney. Steve, what does the council do here?
Thank you. Well, as outlined in my legal report, and as the mayor summarized at the beginning of the public hearing, what the ordinance says is that an owner is responsible to control a dog and maintain the dog on the owner's premises. The question for the council is to determine if the dog is fierce or dangerous or vicious. Definitions of those words are common dictionary definitions which were circulated. Second question is, did Mr. Stratton fail to restrain the dog on his premises, on his property? And I guess I don't think there's been any. I think everybody agrees that did not happen. And then the last question for the council is whether it's in the public interest to euthanize the dog in a humane manner. So that's what the ordinance says. What I would encourage the council to do, unlike most of the resolutions that are presented to the council, the resolution that concerns the dog here tonight, 2119, you know, it's got some fill in the blank locations, and I would encourage the council, if someone is so inclined to move adoption, you know, to specify, you know, whether you're recommending that the dog be found to be fierce, dangerous, or vicious or not, whether you're recommending in the resolution to find that Mr. Stratton did or did not fail to restrain, and then whether you recommend or make the motion that the dog that it is or is not in the public interest to have the dog euthanized. But then I would also suggest that you add some, you know, what lawyers call findings. Everything in our proceeding tonight is recorded on Zoom. All the documents are part of the record, as the mayor said. but I would encourage you at least to, give some sense of why you're making the recommendation that you're making, so that Mike can include that in the resolution that is voted and possibly adopted.
Okay, so we'll go on to council. Would someone like to motion, as Steve suggested, one way or the other, 2119, and specify what the motion is?
Yeah, I'll give a stab at maybe talking through this a little bit. Steve, let me know if I'm not being helpful, I guess, in a sense. What I wanted to say is I appreciate whenever someone tries to provide a home for a difficult dog. But I find that based on Chris Whitmore's statements, there is not demand for a dog like this by individuals that would be able to safely keep them. I find that David comes across as a sincere and remorseful person. But I also find that David is not able to provide for the dog at issue in a way that is safe for the community. I agree with Doug, if I heard him correctly, that the situation that the pet owner in this case has created is what put the wheels in motion for this to happen. It's not surprising under the circumstances. It's certainly not Leslie's fault, and I'm sorry to hear what she needed to go through as a result of this. To be clear, I find number one, the dog is a dangerous animal. Number two, the owner failed to restrain the dog on the premises reasonably. Number three, that is in the public interest to destroy the dog in a humane manner. Number four, I support the UHPD taking custody of the dog and arranging for its destruction in a humane manner. In general, I think that the number of dogs in this property, even in and of itself, seems to have created a nuisance under Section 5 and likely makes it more difficult to keep the public safe when this many dogs are running around a house. It sounds like this property is not a good fit for the dogs that are staying there. It's not surprising that a dog with this background the background as described by the owner, ran after another dog. And I'm concerned that other dogs in the property, as they've described the other dogs, are going to cause similar harm to others. I want to be clear that I find that the way that, David, that you have these dogs with this background in this house, in the city, no fence, people, children, dogs walking by, creates a dangerous situation. I hope that you can find different arrangements for these other dogs, that you've described in addition to JJ, because this just does not seem to be a workable situation. It just sounds like anybody opening the door potentially when there's a dog or person walking by could lead to substantial harm. Harm occurred in this situation, and it sounds like it was likely to occur based on the circumstances as they've been described. Excuse me, I'm going to keep going right now. Notice was properly given in this case. I appreciate that you are asking for additional time, and I don't blame you for doing that. I understand that, but not only has notice been given, but this has been a while since this occurred. I'm still not hearing any concrete plans for anything to change. And I think that in the position that I'm in, which, I think as maybe was alluded to by, maybe by the victim in Troy's statements, that nobody wants to be in this position to have to make this decision. But being in the position that I'm in, I do not hesitate to want to act, and I'm just one council member. I don't hesitate though to want to act swiftly because, if something happens tonight, tomorrow, whenever, if it's something that if I could have acted to prevent that when these circumstances are just so unreasonable from what I find, what I see, that's just not something that I'm willing to do. So I would move that resolution number 2119 be, I guess, updated or finalized to find that the dog is a dangerous animal, that the owner failed to restrain the dog on his premises reasonably, that is in the public's interest to destroy the dog in a humane manner, and I support the UHPD. And so the fourth line doesn't have any highlighting, so I think we're good there.
Okay, that's a motion.
That's my motion, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. That's
please.
a motion by Nick. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Bobby. Discussion.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead,
Go ahead,
please.
Sarah.
yeah, again, this is so hard, and I do this with compassion, but I think I agree with Nick. I don't feel comfortable delaying this, and I think we have a responsibility to keep people safe in our neighborhoods, and I just feel like this is an unsafe dog. I agree. I think it fits the definition of a fierce and dangerous dog, and I just don't see another option. If there's somewhere else for him to go that's also safe, maybe, but I'm not hearing that there's really any other option that's acceptably safe, in my opinion. So again, with compassion, but I think this is the right thing that we all need to do.
Any further discussion?
Well, I would
agree.
like to say
Go ahead.
something because I haven't said anything during this. I mean, this is hard. I'm a dog lover too. I'll just agree with Sarah and Nick. We have to do something. But I want to say, because this language was used, we are not punishing the dog and we are not punishing the people. This is just a step that we must take, in my opinion, hard as it is.
Any other discussion?
I think that's great, Lisa. I agree with that as well. And Dave and Betty, nothing, it seems like if there's any dog owner who's fit to take care of these dogs, it's you guys. It's not that we're worried about you guys, it's we're worried about the dogs, because it seems like the only way to keep these dogs incredibly 100% safe with specifically the one dog, JJ, I guess. And the only way to guarantee that absolutely nothing will happen is to lock the dogs in a metal box where there's no way to get out. And that's not safe for the dogs or for anybody. So we care too much about the safety of the citizens for that to happen.
And I guess I just want to throw a couple more things out as far as we all have a reasonable expectation of safety when we walk through our streets in University Heights of not having a dog come shooting out and attacking you. So I guess our duty as council people are to eliminate, I guess, that threat of that. I mean, it's unfortunate. I mean, I certainly don't want to do it either, but Leslie did not go onto the dog's property where, I could understand the dog being territorial, defensive, but that dog went on the offensive and went out after that dog in a public area. And I guess for me, that's going to be my deciding details that I'll make my decision upon.
Okay. Is any further discussion? I'm going to call for a roll call vote. Roll call vote. Mike?
Herbold.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
O'Sullivan.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Swales.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Steve, could you explain what the next step is here?
I will. So at this point, then, Chief Kelsey has been directed and has been directed by the council in the resolution, is authorized under Iowa law and University Heights Ordinance number 55 to take possession of the dog JJ and to euthanize the dog or arrange for that, presumably through Ms. Whitmore at the animal shelter.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go on to the next order of business. Thanks everybody for attending tonight. You can stay on or you can leave, whatever you want. I appreciate all your input but we're going to move on now. So the next thing is public input. Is there anybody here from the public that wants to speak on anything else? Any subject?
Yeah, I'd like to speak. This is Warren Tunwall.
Oh, hi, Warren.
Hi.
Can you give your address quickly?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Warren Tunwall, and the screen probably shows Deb Tunwall. That's my wife. And we're at 100 Kozer Avenue. And I wanted to talk about people speeding on Kozer Avenue. So where we're at on Kozer is directly opposite where Highland comes into Kozer. We're on the north side of the street, and it's 5 houses up from where Kozer intersects with Melrose, and we're six houses down from where the stop sign is on Kozer at Kozer and George. So I've been in this house for 25 years, and I repeatedly see speeders on the street, and we've talked to the council off and on over the years, but in the morning you'll see people speeding down towards Melrose. You'll see people in the afternoon speeding up Melrose. We've put out some signs like "Slow down, children at play." We had one of those bright yellow plastic figurines of slow-mo with a flag, and it was stolen. But it's real, the speed limit is 20 miles an hour on Kozer, and it's 20 miles an hour on the surrounding streets like Highland and George. It's very easy to tell when somebody's going over 20 miles an hour, and it's extremely easy when somebody's going excessively over that. And, in the past, we've talked to the police. They've been helpful with, patrolling the street or putting out that speed trailer with the digital display on it. I think in the past, and this is probably going back a couple of years ago, it was put out, but it was after the spring semester, so the college students weren't there. So I'm not sure the data really reflected what you normally see. And I'm not saying it's all college students, but that's some of it. And then more recently, I think it was out, and I think with the last police administration, they had some data, but I'm not sure anything was done with that. But in the past, we've requested, or I'd like to see some options explored and followed through on. Like, I would really like to see one of those digital permanent speed signs put up. We'd asked for one before the one was put up on Melrose. I personally think that's pretty effective. I don't know if data shows that, but I know it catches your attention. And I think a big part is letting people know the actual speed limit is 20 miles an hour. So I'd like to see digital speed signs going both directions. So 2 signs. So you get it whether you're going down Kozer towards Melrose or you're going up Kozer towards George, the stop sign there. But it's a repeated problem, and it's not just me. Some other neighbors are upset as well, and it's doubly frustrating when you see somebody speeding, and you can see them not only speeding but holding their cell phone up because they're looking at their phone as they go down the street, and something's going to happen. I just like to see some action taken.
Thank you, Warren. I am familiar with addressing this again and again. And tonight, I think we should have Sarah O'Sullivan from the police committee follow up, and also the police with you about this situation. And we can't solve the problem tonight, but we have some city business to do. But I think they can follow up with you. A police officer and Sarah can follow up and work out something,
Okay.
Is that okay, Sarah?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, just let me know. I'm available. So anytime is good. I look forward to meeting with you guys. And again, in the past, when I've talked to Chief Kelsey, and he's been helpful with having patrols and the speed cart in the past, but I just feel like we need something permanent. It's maybe got to hopefully resolve it longer term.
Thank you, and thank you for waiting.
Yeah. Is there a way I can get your contact info, Warren? I mean, I know which house you're talking about, but short of me knocking on your door, if I could.
Can I give you my phone number so you can text me right now?
You want to do that with?
Sure.
I believe I have the contact information.
I don't think you should. I don't think you should.
Or I was going to say, you could send, my email is on the city website. You
okay. Yeah. I'll just send something to you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Warren.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public who'd like to speak tonight about any subject? Okay, we'll keep moving on. And Warren, you can stay, of course, as long as you want to the meeting. Okay, next is mayor's report. And we have consideration of resolution 2116, and that is the 2022 28E agreement between the City of University Heights and Johnson County Seats Paratransit Services. This was explained in Steve Ballard's legal report. Can I have a motion?
I'll make the motion, Louise.
Okay, motion by Lisa. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Nobody's going anywhere.
Who is the second on that?
Nick.
Carebold.
Okay, thanks, Nick.
Okay, no discussion. Roll call vote.
Moore,
Aye.
Yeah.
O'Sullivan,
Aye.
Glasses.
Scott,
Aye.
Swales,
Aye.
Herbold.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. We have consideration of resolution 2117, authorizing the mayor to sign and the clerk to attest to the FY 2022-28E agreement between the city and the City of Iowa City for the provision of transit services. And this is, as Steve said in his report, went by the CPI increase, which was fairly low this year, like 1.6, I think it was. So is there a motion?
I'll make the motion again, Louise.
Motion by Lisa. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by, it sound like Bobby?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is there discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Sullivan,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Swales, Doug.
We lose Doug.
He did a thumbs up.
Okay, that doesn't flip him onto my screen when he does that. Herbold,
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Did Greg get on for hotel update? Greg still?
Jim is on.
Jim is on. Okay, and I believe they sent some pictures.
They did. I will pull those up right now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Jim Glasgow,
Yep,
thank you for attending. And yeah, oh, here was a kitchen, I think.
Oh yeah, we're getting ready to cook.
Okay, and then
Ready?
have him go through the pictures.
Sure.
Ooh,
Is that?
is this where you check in, Jim?
Well, yeah, and I guess no, this is the,
Oh, the bar.
This is the bar. Yep. So we're at the point now. We've got the bar top on, and a lot of the equipment is set, and the sinks are all working and everything. Where you still see the drywall there, that gets that white marble goes on the walls, and we still have to put down the countertops back there. And then where those pieces of plywood are on the wall, that's the TV mounts there. And I'm not exactly sure what else. I'm assuming there's a bunch of shelving and the liquor and glasses and things like that. So, but yeah, it's turning out great. It was worth the wait, I guess. What you're looking at on that ribbed material, that's all black walnut, and the whole bar is walnut on the wood material part. So you can go back to that other picture, shows that's the far end of the towards the railroad track side, and then you're looking at a waitress station kind of back in the back corner there, and there'll be a iced tea brewer, and we have the Starbucks kiosk is actually back around the corner. So we actually have two stations for Starbucks coffee. One is by the front desk, and then there's another one back around behind the kitchen. Now, if you go back to that first picture of the cook line, so that's back in the kitchen area, and I'll be firing that up this week. All the equipment is got gas and electricity to it. We're going to be starting up the hood and checking it out this week. And then Alex, our chef, maybe is going to make us some lunch here towards the end of the week, I'm hoping. So, and what you're looking at down at the far end there, that's the dishwashing station. So we're pretty well set on the lower level kitchen. And this is on first floor that you're looking at right now. Okay, Mike, you can go back to a new one there. Oh, so this one, we just got the mirrors put up. This is in the public bathrooms. So you can see this is the men's, there's a urinal there, but that's what the lavatories look like in the bathroom. And then everything is tile in there. So that just gives you an idea of the bathrooms. These things are kind of unique to the new style Marriott has these technology booths that if there's a built-in monitor, fairly good sized monitor, probably about a 36-inch monitor. And when it's all done, there'll be a booth in there, and you'll be able to bring your laptop in and attach to our monitor, and you can have a sales meeting or, study or, so there's 3 of these technology booths. And those will be done this week. Okay, now we're up on top floor. The kitchen on top floor is actually bigger than the one down below. These are 2 hoods that we've been working on for the past 3 weeks, and this is connected up through the roof, and you're looking at about $100,000 worth of equipment right there, just in air conditioning and heating and exhaust equipment. So this is a big step. We finally got this done, and now we'll be able to start setting equipment up on top floor. Okay, you can go to the next one. Okay, now you're looking at the main banquet area on top floor. The spiral duct on the ceiling, that's all the heating and air conditioning. We'll be starting to paint the ceilings probably either late this week or next week. So the ceilings will all be painted black. And then I'll go to that next picture, Mike, then so you can see we're putting up stone on the walls. You can see the very far wall is already, it's complete. And then this wall is almost done. It'll be done this week. And then around on the back side of this, there's more stone. So it's a mix of stone, fabric, and then the ceilings are painted black. So it's a huge wide open space, probably enough to hold probably 500 people, I think is what the count was. So that is where we are right now. We're on the roof right now, piping gas and electricity to some of the air conditioning and heating units. And realistically, I think we'll be through inspections and all the finals on first floor and potentially on the 6th floor by the end of this month. And then I think we'll be starting Marriott training sometime around, the end of this month or the first part of May.
When do you expect to be open?
Well, that's as soon as we hit Marriott training, that's about 3 weeks. So I'd say it's going to be sometime in May would be realistic. unless something goes wrong and we can't get equipment. But we're going through all our life safety protocols this coming week. Fire alarms have been going off all day long today, and they're testing everything out. So we're running through all the equipment. We'll be starting up the lower level kitchen, getting all the burners burnt off, and we'll probably start getting some food in the first level within 2 weeks, just to do some test runs. So I'm way more optimistic about opening up here than I have been in quite a while. So everything
questions?
is coming together.
Any questions for Jim? Thank you so much, Jim, for attending tonight. I appreciate it.
Yep. Stop over anytime.
Thanks again.
All right. Yep. All right. Bye.
So if it's okay with council, I want to move to building, zoning, and sanitation because Brian Jensen, I believe, is on the line. Is that right?
Yes. He's muted right now.
Yep.
He's muted right now.
I'm here. Yes.
Oh, hi, Brian.
Hello.
Okay, and so Nick, do you want to go with your committee now? You sent around a committee report, I believe. Yeah, okay. Nick's on mute. There you go.
Yep. Yeah, thank you. I don't have a whole lot to add outside of my report. Basically, one of the things that we're going to bring up tonight on the agenda is Resolution 2118, amending Brian Jensen's contract. As I set forth in my report, my interactions with Brian have been very positive and consistent with the high bar set by Terry Gert in relation to responsiveness, professionalism, diligence. Brian appears to handle the work required by the city very well, but also has been talking to me about better ways to organize and archive the work he's doing. I previously had talked to council about doing rental inspections every 2 years. That's something Brian and I had talked about. And so when Steve had shared the updated contract with me, that was the first thing that came to mind is, is this going to allow Brian to still, reasonably do the inspections with the set rate instead of the hourly compensation. And in talking with him, it sounded like that was going to be the case. That was going to be sufficient. So I don't know if you want me to make a motion in terms of 2118.
Yeah, go ahead, and then we can have discussion later.
Okay.
Or questions.
So yeah, I'd move to have the consideration of resolution number 2118.
Okay, motion by Nick. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion. Now Brian's here if you have any questions for him. Also in the discussion.
So the difference in the arrangement is that rather than like an hourly rate, we're just setting a monthly rate, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Okay, we're ready for a roll call vote.
Scott.
Aye.
Swales.
Aye.
Herbold.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
O'Sullivan.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, and thank you, Brian, for attending tonight. Appreciate it. Now we'll go back to the attorney report. Steve sent around a legal report, and Steve, did you want to explain any of it, or do they have questions for you? I think it was pretty thorough. This consideration of resolution 2120. Yeah, you might talk about that just for the public.
Sure.
It's deferred.
Oh, yeah, 2120. Yeah, okay, thanks. I'm like, which one's that? Sorry. 2120 will be approving various things related to the hotel. As Jim said, they're not quite ready. That gives Terry Gert, Brian Jensen, Josiah, me as well, a little more time to go through checklists about what they have or still need to complete. And, so we'll bring that to the council. It looks like, in May, that seems to be the target council meeting wise, for the hotel to get its approvals, assuming everything's in good shape. And then to have the building official, Terry, issue a certificate of occupancy.
Any questions for Steve?
Steve, I guess I was just kind of curious, and I'm sorry, this is probably because I haven't been around, I haven't been on council as long as the rest of the councilors, but I remember this discussion that you had, I think, referenced about is people from the city being able to use certain.
Well, now they're in the regular meeting. They've been in the regular meeting for half hour. So let's see. How's the dog?
Oh, is that Pat Yagi talking? Sorry. I was,
yeah.
So I didn't know if you guys, I didn't know if that was still, I know that was brought up originally when we had just lost the athletic club. And so I know there was discussion about that. I didn't know if that had been something that there's even still interest on, or if that's something you're going to look to council for feedback on. I saw that and I remember that being brought up, but I didn't know if there was much history to that issue that we should be talking about before that resolution is complete.
Yeah, the mayor has been involved in some discussions with people at the Marriott, including Jim and Greg, of course, with regard to terms under which residents in the city would be permitted to use workout facilities and pool facilities, and then terms under which the city, not just anybody who lives here, but the city itself could use conference and meeting room space. And I guess what I would say is, Nick, you're right to note those things. They're certainly on the list, and there'll be more to come on that.
Yeah, and I'm not saying they're a priority for me. I just didn't know what the kind of the way that we would discuss those, or if it would just be presented in a resolution, or kind of how that would go. So that's good to know.
We'll update you on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll go to the
Mayor, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I apologize. No, one other comment. This is not in my report. So everything with respect to the Finkbine redevelopment has been approved by both city councils, University Heights and Iowa City. And I'm working with the city attorney's office and the city clerk's office in Iowa City to finalize the submission to this thing called the Community Development Board of the state of Iowa, which has to hold a hearing and then approve the boundary adjustment. And so I think that takes about 30 days from submission, and I think we'll probably have it submitted here very soon, the next week or so. So more to come on that as well, but we've done everything we're supposed to do. And so is Iowa City. We're just putting it together.
Thanks, Steve. I
You bet.
forgot that. Any questions for Steve about that specifically, or anything else? Okay, I'll go to the city clerk report that was submitted. Do you have any questions for Mike?
I don't have anything else to add either. I guess maybe the one thing I would mention, I did mention that we have one additional rental permit this month. That's somebody who's purchased a unit in Grandview. It's not rented yet, but they are looking, they applied for a rental permit. So since Brian was here, that's one of the things he has already done, is contacted that new owner to say the property has to be inspected. We have to go through a series of steps. So there is nowhere with additional rental permits where anyone's actually living in a unit right now. So.
Thanks, Mike. Then we have the city treasurer's report, and Lori sent that, and she added some warrants tonight. And is that complete now, Lori? The warrant list is complete?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Is there any objection to paying the bills from council? Do I hear any objections to paying the bills? Hearing none, the bills will be approved and paid by unanimous consent. Lori, did you want to, I feel like I cut you off. Did you want to say something?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. It's
Thanks,
kind of
Dom.
hard to tell sometimes. Thank you, Lori. We'll go on to police chief's report and the committee report, and that's Troy and Sarah.
I'll let you start, Troy.
Sure. The police chief's report is fairly short this time and fairly self-explanatory. I only like to touch on item G. I was in Minneapolis. I've been spending a lot of time in Minneapolis, but things are blowing up there again, both in relation to the Chauvin trial and also another police shooting that they had in the area. As far as how that'll impact us locally, I think that will continue the discussion that is happening locally. There is fundraising going on for some of the local activist groups so that they can further their efforts through the summer in a variety of ways. University Heights and University Heights PD were mentioned for the first time specifically in some recent social posts that I saw. So if there wasn't an awareness of us, there is now. So depending on what this summer and warmer weather brings, I think that we'll see some activity, and some of them might be specifically directed against or us as an audience, if you will. So I just wanted to share that so you are all aware of it. And it's not mentioned anywhere there, but again, I very much appreciate everybody's support for those of you who know some of the things I'm dealing with and allowing me the time to deal with some of the stuff I'm working through right now. So thank you.
Any questions for Chief? Okay, Sarah, you submitted a written report. Did you want to add anything?
Nothing to add. I guess I'll just state about, the Citizens Advisory Board. We have had a couple applicants. We're going to move forward with that selection process. So if there is someone who still wants to apply, it's not too late, but please do it as soon as possible because we're going to move forward with that. So, and thank you for those who have.
Any questions for Sarah or Chief? Okay, we'll move on to engineers report and committee report, and that's Josiah and Doug. Doug, can Josiah go first?
Yeah, Josiah,
okay?
we've got
Okay,
pretty much all the information tonight.
All right, thanks, Louise and Doug. I submitted a written report. We do have a resolution for tonight related to street sweeping quotes we got. To summarize those, we have 2 quotations for the work this year, one from Streb Construction and one from LL Pelling. The lower hourly rate was submitted by Streb at $175 an hour. The submittal from Pelling is $180.25 per hour. We're recommending accepting the Streb quotation with the lower hourly rate. They have done work recently and have done a fine job, so we don't have any issues recommending either, really. So that's our recommendation on resolution 2121.
Accepting and it reads accepting quotation for the 2021 street sweeping project, and that would be Streb. Is there a motion?
I'll motion.
Motion by Bobby. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nick. Thank you, Nick. Discussion?
I guess just real quick, Josiah, the reimbursement for the disposal of all that waste is the same for both?
Yeah, both contractors utilize the Iowa City landfill, so they're just both paying the same tipping fee per weight.
Very good.
Okay, and Doug, did you, Josiah, you have some other things to add, I think.
Yeah, a quick updates. So on the Gulfview Drive project, we had
Louise, we have a motion on the floor right now
Oh, I'm
yet?
sorry. I'm like, you're right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Any discussion with that? I'm sorry. It's past my bedtime. Roll call vote.
Well, 2 meetings in a row, we get to go around the horn. Swales.
Aye.
Herbold.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
O'Sullivan.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And so I guess to close that out, so we'll work with Streb to notify them tomorrow and coordinate with Iowa City to get a meter placed on the hydrant and have them do that work as soon as they can. So Gulfview Drive project, we did have a pre-construction meeting with the contractor and utility companies last week that went pretty well. The contractor will start on the project right around May 1st. I think May 1st is actually a Saturday, so they'll start May 3rd on the work. In the meantime, Mid-American Energy, their gas division, will be reinstalling a new gas main along the project and redoing the gas services to multiple houses. So they got started, kicked off today with some preliminary work. So that'll be happening in the next couple of weeks. And then again, at the beginning of May, we'll start to see some actual construction work from the street contractor. And I guess the first thing they're going to do is work on the north end of the project near Grand Avenue on the replacement of the storm intakes down there at the low point. So they're going to start there and then work their way out from the low point. I did have a note about a work in the right-of-way item. We did issue a work in the right-of-way permit at 18 George Street for the sidewalk and driveway replacement, driveway apron replacement, and that's happening this week. I didn't include it here because I didn't have an update, but I do see that the Verizon small cell installation project from last year, those have been installed on the poles. I have reached out to them for just a summary of where they're at overall and what's left, if any, to get those functioning. But I do see them up on the poles, and as soon as I hear back, I'll let you guys know.
Anything else, Josiah?
That's it.
Any questions for Josiah? And Doug, Doug and I had been working on getting a pothole survey, and we asked the chief to, if the police could, when they're driving around, evaluate some potholes. And Russ had said he already did some in the old area, Gulfview, Lemur, in that area. And Chief tells me that he will get the list sent over to Russ later this week. So potholes are being worked on, or will be worked on in the next couple weeks. What else did you have, Doug? Did you have something else?
I kind of did a survey of sidewalks and streets, kind of seeing what all the winter carnage has done. And the worst part that I found so far, and it's not even actually our street, it's actually up here on Sunset between, Benton Street all the way up to, the apartments there on the, the east side of the half of the street there. And it's really got a crown, like the frost really shoved it up this winter. And that crack is pretty wide, and it's that Sunset project, that's going to have to get pushed up a little sooner, I think, than later, because this winter was pretty hard on that street. And I also am working on the storm drains. I got the placards and the glue and making progress on that slowly, but I am making progress on that to get those labels all on our stormwater intakes.
Any questions for Doug? Okay, we'll move on to Bobby Scott. And hey, Bobby, I got a text tonight from Steve Cool saying the FY 2021 budget needs to be amended in May. I think you're aware of that. And Steve Cool said he'll try to get the work done by May 11th meeting. But, you know, it means he has to get information from all of us, you, me, Lori, and he'll, and to have a public hearing, and that has to be set up May 1st. But if it doesn't get done, we might have to have a quick special meeting like May 18th or May 25th. But if we work with them, we're going to try to get it done for the May 11th meeting.
Okay.
Did you have anything else, Bobby?
No, nothing. Well, not necessarily. I was wondering, could we consolidate my session and Lori's together? Just, it seems like they're, I don't know if that's a thing
Yeah,
we can do. It seems like they're
good
kind
idea.
of somewhat related.
That's a good idea.
Hmm.
Okay. So.
Other than that, no.
Okay, good. And I did have another note. I talked to Stan Loverman. His son, Jack, has been doing the city mowing for the last 2 years, and he's willing to do it again this spring, summer, fall for the same price as he's done the last 2 years. Is that okay with council for him to continue that at the same price?
Yeah. So is that Triangle Park and like City Hall, or where is it? Okay.
And then it's also in front of the ravine over kind of across from Kathy Belgum and Shrivers, and around the city garden. Oh,
okay.
Yeah, in that area.
Okay. Cool.
Steve, do you think we need a motion on that, or can I just say the council? What would you like?
Thank you. Motion would be helpful. I think a
Okay,
motion.
I kind of thought you wanted that. So can I have a motion for Jack Loverman to continue the city mowing
I
this
will
year?
motion for Jack Loverman to continue the city mowing.
Okay, thank you, Bobby. Is there a second? And I think it's Doug, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Doug. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, motion carries. Let's see, was there something else here? Okay, I gotta find my agenda again. What do we got now? We got probably Lisa, right?
Correct.
Did I miss somebody? I mean, yeah, we did building, we did finance. Okay, I'm sorry. I have too many papers. So Lisa, you submitted a report.
I did, and I'll just mention that cleanup day is Saturday. Check the website for details. 9 to 11 in front of Grandview on Marietta.
What's
And
the
I believe
forecast? Sorry, just asking what the forecast was like on Saturday. Are we gonna rain down?
it's gonna be
It's
gonna
good.
be bad.
Good.
No
You know,
rain
it's
for the
always
next 2
rainy and
days.
cold.
10 days. No rain in the next 10 days.
Except
That's
Saturday.
what they told me. Any questions for Lisa? Okay, any further announcements? Okay. Is there any objection to adjournment? Hearing none, the meeting's adjourned by unanimous consent. Thanks everyone for attending tonight, and we'll see you in May.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
you.
Good night.